He's the tallest man on the radio, so sit right back and enjoy the show. Fly through the air like a ballistic missile. Here's your host, Ben Kissel.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Ben Kissel channel. I'm your host, Ben Kissel, hanging out with Kyle Ploof.
Hey, what's going on?
Check out Kyle Ploof on the Death and Entertainment podcast. Also, he's on the regular program right here on BKC. Yeah. We have a bunch of news to get to. Miss Harris, she has chosen her running mate. She wants Walz. No, not on the southern border, which angers many. She wants him to be her VP. Tim Walz, the governor out of Minnesota, will break down a little bit about his record. Also, get ready to hear about tampons in the men's or boys' bathroom.
Ooh.
That conversation is going to be happening a lot. You ready for potty talk? It's American presidential politics, so you're going to get it. Also, all of that stuff, we know for a fact, if there's tampons in the boys' bathroom, those are going under the sink, they're getting soaking wet, and they're being flung to the ceiling immediately.
Oh, absolutely. I've talked about this before. Like, if guys actually had periods, we'd be slapping them out and slapping each other in the face with them.
Absolutely having a bloody good time with our boys.
Yeah. I put it in a fruit cup, like a fruit punch thing, and it totally just expanded. It just blew my mind. I didn't know.
Oh, my God, the power of the tampon.
They get big.
It's incredible. Every time I see another oil leak that happens in the ocean, thank you so much, BP. Pop a tampon right in there.
Yeah.
You would think it would stop the entire thing. But then that would make that oil transgender.
Hey!
I don't like it one bit. Tim Walz does have some policies I completely disagree with, however, and I will be discussing those specifically when it comes to his snitch policy during COVID-19. We have a bunch of stuff to get to. Again, we'll fill you in a little bit more on Tim Walz now that it'll be he going against J.D. Vance, the man who's never seen eye makeup he doesn't want to kiss. I do love the idea of J.D. Vance in full drag talking about how we cannot even accept anyone who perhaps has some gender identity issues. All right. First, let's get to the dumbest story of the week that's brought to us by the dumbest candidate of this election cycle, Robert F. Kennedy. I don't understand. The Kennedy family, is it inbreeding? I don't get it. Why are they, every story about a Kennedy is like, you killed a woman in Chappaquiddick. And then he was like, well, I can't run for president anymore. I'm like, oh my God, so sad. You just have to be a senator. And now we have RFK Jr., who killed a bear, right? And then he was like, oh, I know what to do with this bear. Let's take it to Central Park in the middle of New York City and try to skin it.
Yeah.
But then he didn't skin it, so they just kind of dropped it off. So there was a dead bear cub, and it was found in Central Park decades ago. And people are like, what the hell is going on? Kennedy's 70 years old. He bizarrely recounted in a video posted on social media how some of his buddies were drinking and thought it would be a good idea to dump the dead bear in the park and, quote, make it look like it got hit by a bike.
What?
I don't know. I don't know. I've been drinking with a lot of my buddies, and at no point we're like, let's get this dead bear to Central Park.
Yeah, this big bear. Even the cubs are still pretty big and strong. Do you think that people are going to buy that a pedestrian bike?
I have no freaking idea what they're thinking, okay? So Kennedy himself, RFK Jr., he says, don't worry, I wasn't drinking, which makes it worse.
Yeah.
Because he was the sober friend.
That's way worse.
It's your job as the sober friend to be like, guys, see how that could be fun.
Yeah.
Get it? But let's not.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the dumbest things I have ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
So he says that he was not drinking, but he said that he would take part in dumping this bear. Evidently, there had been a bunch of local biking accidents and they were making headlines at the time, so I guess they thought it would just be super funny. This is what Kennedy recounted on X. He says, everybody thought it was a great idea, so I'll do it like you. Everybody thought it was a great idea, so we went and did that and thought it would be amusing for whoever found it. Because you know how fun that is.
Oh, it's hilarious.
When you're in Central Park on a hot date, licking ice cream, looking at that future wife or husband of yours, and then you're like, hey, look at that. It's a dead bear.
Yeah.
How fun. Just when I didn't think this day could get any better, there's a dead fucking bear right there.
Yeah. I've learned in my age, I'm about to be 40 years old in a couple years, and I realized that anytime someone says, wouldn't it be hilarious if?
Right.
It's never actually hilarious if it happens.
No, next thing you know, 6 million innocent Jewish people are dead. So 2014, that's when this all happened. A woman discovered the dead bear under some bushes, concealed in part by a bike, which I guess was the setup bike.
It should have been the bear was riding the bike. Then that would have been a little bit more jovial.
Also, the bear, it's not a big scary bear. It's a baby bear.
Yeah, poor guy.
He goes on to say, when it comes to the young bear, he says, I turned on the TV and there was like a mile of yellow tape and there were like 20 cop cars. There were like helicopters flying over it. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do? So stupid.
What did I do? It's
What did I do?
You're sober.
Oh, my Lord. And then he says the dumbest effing thing. I was worried my fingerprints were all over that bike. Luckily, the story died after a while.
Just like the bear. Jesus.
Oh, my God.
The only reason anybody listens to this guy is because his last name is Kennedy.
Seriously.
If you saw this lunatic with ladybugs covered all over him and bear blood on his shirt and being like, hey, let's do my idea, you'd be like, let's get the fuck away from this guy.
And he's at about 5% nationally, which is even more amazing. That's an indictment on both Harris and Trump. The fact people are like, well, we'll go with bear killer over here.
Jeez.
So locals for the longest time were like puzzled. They were like, what the hell? Why? Why is there a dead bear? And I'm just going to start blaming the Kennedys for everything.
Yeah.
Just any anomaly, anytime something is there that doesn't belong, I'll be like, Kennedy was here again. If I see a bunch of butter in the meat section at the supermarket, I'm blaming a Kennedy.
Kennedy struck again.
Anyway, he's not going to be charged because it is now past the expiration date.
The statute of limitations is
Yes.
such a ridiculous thing. It's like if the statute of limitations passed, but you don't know who did it, and then all of a sudden you do, you should be able to.
Well, I don't know if anyone needs to be charged with this. I think he just needs to have exactly what's happening to him happen to him, which is being made fun of on a podcast by two assholes. They said that they were going to skin it for meat, which, what are we talking? No, you're not. You're just simply not.
Yeah, not a baby.
No, not a baby. No. It was also evidently it was a domestic animal. And with a domestic animal, you're obligated to bury it underground several feet within 72 hours. So you're supposed to do that.
Oh, you're supposed to do that and not throw a Huffy on top of it?
Yeah. And then pose with it, fake biting his fingers when it obviously has a huge hole in its heart.
Oh,
It's horrible. Anyway, this is according to Jamie Perconi. She's an environmental lawyer. She says the short answer is that I don't see any violations of the New York environmental conservation law that Mr. Kennedy may have committed. So it's not illegal to just kill a little bear or find a little dead bear and then plant it in Central Park under some bushes and a bicycle.
God. That's like the most. It's a kid's version of friggin' what is it, Law and Order, when it always starts with a dead body in Central Park.
Exactly. All right, let's move on a little bit to the Supreme Court. By the way, Neil Gorsuch, he kind of threatened Joe Biden a little bit, as Joe Biden, of course, a lame duck president, attempting to get a few things done before he goes to the retirement home. He says, be careful to Joe Biden if he tries to mess with the Supreme Court, of course, discussing term limits, something that I do believe is definitely needed because, as we see, Supreme Court justices are oftentimes corrupt and outdated because they're there forever. Speaking of the devil, Justice Clarence Thomas again failed to disclose additional private travel that he had with his wealthy conservative donor, Harlan Crow.
Oh, Mr. Crow.
Indeed. So Custom and Border Protection's records revealed that the justice and his horrible, horrible wife, Virginia Thomas, they took a round trip to Hawaii and New Zealand in November of 2010 on Mr. Crow's private jet, according to the letter Senator Ron Wyden That's what he says as he was looking towards trying to find information on Clarence Thomas. So the hits keep on coming. There's just no denying that Clarence Thomas is immensely corrupt. Obviously, Harlan Crow, someone that has had everything that he wants the Supreme Court to pass for him, has been passed because he is buying them off with trips to Hawaii and New Zealand.
Someone's going to pop up and be like, Mr. Thomas, I hope you eat crow. And he's going to be like, how do you think I'm doing all this traveling?
Yeah.
Eating his ass.
You should meet my brother, Jim. So this is what Mr. Wyden says. He says, I am deeply concerned that Mr. Crow may have been showering a public official with extravagant gifts, then writing off those gifts to lower his tax bill. And when I think of showering, I like to think of Virginia and Clarence Thomas. What a hot tub that would be in.
A stew.
A stew indeed. So that's just further evidence that Clarence Thomas, a man that after Justice Alito died, has spoken slightly more. He held the record for not talking whatsoever on the Supreme Court for the longest time, basically just co-signed everything Justice Alito had to say.
Wow.
And now, again, facts speak louder than his words. And I don't see how any opinion that he has can be taken seriously. Because you just don't know. He's so freaking corrupt.
Yeah.
You have no idea what the motivation is. All right. Before we get to Veep Stakes, obviously, again, it is Tim Walz. I want to talk a little bit about something that's going on here in California and the Supreme Court. So the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that cities can fine and jail unhoused people or homeless people, people sleeping outside, even when there is no shelter available. So this has been a recent Supreme Court decision. Now, because of this, Gavin Newsom has signed an executive order calling for the removal of encampments across the state. There are an estimated 123,000 unhomed, unsheltered, homeless people living in tents, trailers, cars, and makeshift shelters all over the state of California. I definitely think the fact that Harris represented California and now is on the top of the ticket has something to do with this as well. They don't want to look at California. They don't want to see all the homeless. They want it to be a pristine, perfect, dystopian hellscape that it is. And they don't want it to reflect poorly on Harris. Now, I know, Kyle, you had your own personal experience with homeless people. And again, there's a two-pronged problem here. Number one is allowance. When it comes to giving $600 a month to many, that just feeds a drug habit. It's very sad. But the most important is lack of affordable housing. As housing has skyrocketed, the price of goods have skyrocketed, causing many people to become homeless. And it's interesting. I want to share your story because that almost literally happened to you had you not found such a beautiful woman, Paulina.
I had my own moving company. Had no problems until shortly after the pandemic. It was like a North Hollywood Skid Row. And I would park my truck on the street. It was totally fine. And until one day I walked over there and there was a bunch of homeless people living in my truck.
Yeah.
They had ripped out, thousands of dollars worth of stuff in the back and then destroyed the front. And then I had to pay like $5,000 to get it fixed. And once I got it fixed and parked it in another spot, it was actually fixable enough for them to really steal.
Nice. And then it became a tent city around your car.
Oh, yeah. They broke the window and then connected, tents to the back of it was a big, like 17-foot box truck. So there was they were having dance parties in there.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. I mean, it would be awesome.
And then naturally, because of that, you basically went broke.
Yeah, I had to spend my entire savings just to survive and then got an eviction notice when I was 1 month late. And the city of LA has, it's such a big problem. The LA landlords know that there are programs that they can sign up for and get money paid for people who are struggling. But they didn't even want to do that. They're like, just get the fuck out. We'll get someone in here or we'll just pay so we don't have to fill out paperwork.
And then you could go get your van back by sleeping in it.
Yeah, exactly.
South Park had a fantastic episode. Give me some change. Can you spare some change? It's a great episode. It's a trickle-down system. The only thing that trickles down is the pain and the suffering, not the freaking money.
Yeah.
As we have seen, it's a race to the bottom. So, Gavin Newsom, again, I do believe this has something to do with Harris being on top of the ticket, has said, get rid of 123,000 unsheltered people. Also, don't forget, we got the Olympics coming up here in 2028.
Oh, God.
And as we know, when the great leader of China came, San Francisco looked pristine.
Yep.
So we know they can do it. They only do it when it's politically advantageous. The City Council of Fresno in the Central Valley also gave initial approval for an ordinance on Monday of this week prohibiting, quote, sitting, lying, not lying like my dick is 10 inches, lying like I'm lying down, sleeping or camping on a public in a public place. That will be a criminal misdemeanor, and you could get up to $1,000 in fines. But as we know, there's a lot of money within the homeless world, and it doesn't really go to the homeless people.
No.
It's a multi-billion-dollar economy, and you do have to think a little bit. Do they want those people on the streets suffering, addicted to drugs, so they can pocket a lot of that cash that's going around? I mean, California spends more than any other state on tackling the homeless issue, but yet it's one of the worst states in the country, and that's not an accident.
Yeah, there are hundreds of open apartments and stuff that are they're zoned for like homeless people to be able to move in or whatever. I don't think zoning is the right word, but they're attributed to that cause, and they're at a 0% fulfillment rate. It's just rich people lining the pockets of their political friends.
It's very unfortunate. In San Francisco, they got 4,000 shelter beds for an estimated 8,000 people who don't got homes. So that's not enough. Anyway, we will continue to follow that story. And it's just interesting to see when politicians want to make a move, they can make a move.
Yeah.
And now, if you are a law enforcement officer who has to go down and actually execute this executive order from Greasy Gassy Gavin, I don't know if he's gassy or not. He definitely is greasy. It's going to be so much more difficult now than it would have been if they didn't let this flourish ever since COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, now you literally do have communities that have been there for years, social structures in place. Mm-hmm. If you nip it in the bud, it's one thing. And now this could end up to be a massive humanitarian crisis right here on the streets of California.
And we'll see.
So anyway, I think that's an interesting story that was not discussed very much. And then just lastly, when it comes to crony, corrupt corporate capitalism, I want to point to this one story, and it has to do with Howard Schultz. The idea of a free market, the idea of the free enterprise is dead. Everything is monopolized now. It's a couple of large corporations that control everything. So that's why the idea of like, well, the market will decide. Corporations are better than government in this way because if people don't like their product, they won't buy it. But there's no other fucking options.
Yeah.
So you have to buy the crappy option because that's all you're going to get. Howard Schultz, he's also an olive farmer. So do you remember that drink that Starbucks had a bunch of olive juice in it? Or a bunch of, there's some trash in some drink, right? And it was like this big thing.
Olives are trash.
Well, I'm an olive fan.
Ooh.
You don't like olives? Mm-mm. Oh, I like it when they're stuffed with cheese.
Oh.
The Marichana.
Yeah.
Marichano? Yeah, something like that. So Starbucks buys all of its olive oil from a plantation in Partana, whose controlling family is Howard Schultz's family. Oh. So basically, the company that he is buying from is also his own company, keeping it in the family, just like Pornhub. Indeed, Starbucks paid the company, now named Partana, after its Sicilian hometown, $26.5 million between October 2022 and September of 2023. So again, this just shows you how insular the economics of these large corporations are. They are the left and the right hand shaking each other. There's no one benefiting other than themselves. It would have been nice if there was like an olive company who was like, we could really use that help. People are not drinking as many martinis. There's no new James Bond this year.
Nope.
And I would imagine the correlation between martini consumption and a James Bond summer is quite high.
It must, yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Although I still don't understand what it means to shake it, not stir it. No fucking clue.
Yeah, well...
I know, but what's the difference? It doesn't make any sense. But I'm not a James Bond guy anyway.
Yeah.
It's all Q, number one, and I just think he's kind of a poor man's Batman.
Yeah, I guess.
I really do. He's all gadgets.
Yeah, it's a lot of gadgets. Yeah, he's more Inspector Gadget-ish.
He's more Inspector Gadget-ish, which I'm an Inspector Gadget fan.
Yeah.
CIA, though. He is a spook. Yes, indeed. That's true. So I just thought that was an interesting story when it comes to why not everyone is sharing in the wealth of the massive corporate class.
Nope.
And of course, Starbucks is interesting. They employees have constantly tried to be like, we want more rights, and they've tried to unionize and things of that nature. And obviously, Howard Schultz has put the hammer down on that. Starbucks also, one of the strangest things of all time. I don't know why you got to give them your name, your birthday, all this information.
I know why.
Never understood it.
They sell it to Palantir. Yeah, they're data mining.
That's right. They're data mining.
Yeah, any piece of information that you share to anyone, they are selling.
Yes, indeed. All right, so let's get to this man right here, Tim Walz.
Uh-oh.
Get ready to continue to hear about this liberal hero, as many people on the left are very happy with this choice.
Well, that's crazy because many people on the left say, no more old white men. We need them gone.
That's very true. From a physical perspective, it does look like Harris is taking a bit from the Clinton playbook, getting a boring, old, white-haired white fella, former football coach. Bland, yes, he does look to be. However, his positions are in line with many of the fairly extreme progressive left. So this is when it comes to sanctuary state status. Minnesota became a sanctuary state. Obviously, in 2020, there was the riots, which Walz kind of alluded to being a good thing, despite the fact it ruined countless businesses and countless people's lives.
Hey, there we go.
So this is what he had to say when it comes to sanctuary cities. He says, my position on Minnesota becoming a sanctuary state boils down to who has the responsibility for enforcing immigration laws. So he says, the federal government, I don't think so. Right here in Minnesota, our doors are open, and then every single person from Honduras got there and then survived one winter and left.
Maybe that's why they're saying it's okay, because they know they'll get out of there once the winter happens.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine coming from South America, beautiful Central America, whatever, and then all of a sudden, 3 degrees?
Yeah.
No.
The lake froze?
Can't do that. I'm out of here. There's been a large shift of actually, I think I mentioned this on another episode, but Gen Z first generation people are like, no, we're going back.
Yeah.
We're just going to not thank Mom and Dad for bringing us to America, but we're going back to Uruguay. So he says Congress has not given local law enforcement that same authority. The role of law enforcement is to enforce state and local laws, not federal immigration laws, and I strongly believe that they should not do so. So during his tenure as governor, Walz backed legislation that expanded benefits to illegal immigrants. So in Minnesota, they can receive state-funded healthcare assistance and driver's licenses. Now, many people see that, and I'm not. I believe a path to citizenship is definitely needed. And if you are working to make this country a better place, please, God, stay here. One of the criticisms is our own citizens are treated like human trash.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they are getting the health care benefits.
Yeah, there's no help for even small business owners out here.
So that's one of the problems. I think a lot of people are like, well, why are they getting it and we're not? So either give it to everyone or give it to no one, which is horrible. Give it to everyone. Yeah. Why not? This is one of the areas that I absolutely disagree with Walz on. This would be COVID-19. It's horrible. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, which again, when it comes to the riots, obviously it had to do with George Floyd and Derek Chauvin, the death of the murder, I suppose, technically, of George Floyd at the knee of Derek Chauvin. That kicked off a very long-standing series of riots in Minnesota. No one really talked about it, but I definitely also believe the lockdowns had a lot to do with it. There was a lot of angry people around. Everyone just wanted to get out and share their rage. And because of righteous indignation in many ways, people were able to do that under the guise of protesting police brutality. Now, the flip side of that, you also had people going down to Minnesota that were pro-police brutality, who were just like, I think Chauvin did a great thing.
Yeah.
And it led to a powder keg of activity that was so immensely dangerous. I had a lot of friends down there. They could smell buildings burning.
Yep.
There was also what happened with it wasn't a Pep Boy. I think it was in O'Reilly's Auto Parts. Check out the story of the guy who definitely was a cop. He broke all the windows, and then that started a looting of that place.
That always happens at those things too.
Always happens. There's so much it's all happening so quick.
Yeah.
There's so much room for nefarious activities, and of course, people who have their own ambitions to go and cause immense amounts of chaos for their own political gain. So one of the things that Walz did rather, he created a hotline. And with this hotline, he prompted people to call if they saw anyone doing anything that was breaking COVID protocol. So if you were walking your dog or doing rudimentary activities during the pandemic, you just call and snitch on your neighbor. And I have German grandparents, and this is one of the laws they may have liked, and that's not a good thing.
No, yeah, that is not good. This is a snitch administration here. We got a DA prosecutor.
Yeah.
And a COVID snitch.
I absolutely hate this. This is turning neighbor against neighbor. We're supposed to be a collective, and this does not help.
Yeah.
Also, the COVID protocols, now many of them have been proven to be wrong. Certainly walking your dog is a good thing to do. Staying outside is a good thing to do.
Yep.
Most people ended up gaining, including myself, ended up gaining 150 fucking pounds. Suicide rates were through the roof. Depression was absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
And of course, we're seeing what's happening now to the COVID generation of school kids who are immensely far behind. And I'm not sure if they're ever going to be able to get out of it. So because of people doing normal activities, they would get a phone call from some Karen, or what's the opposite of a Karen for a dude?
I don't know. Is there one?
Maybe I don't want to say Bill, because I think Bill's out there probably taking a dump on the street, being like, fuck you. Like, he's going more overboard. He's the one who's like licking garbage bags now, just being like, I don't care about COVID. It's like, all right.
I just think of like the bad guy from Pee-wee, like Francis.
And let's go Francis. I think Francis makes a lot of sense.
My daddy said I could have anything I want.
Indeed. So that is one of the things that I absolutely disagree with Tim Walz on. He also opposes school choice. Now, school choice, it's a tricky subject when it comes to funding. A lot of people believe school choice takes away from public schools. That is something that is it's difficult. I don't disagree with a voucher-style system. However, he did disagree with a voucher-style system, and that had a negative impact for some of the students that were accelerating in school. So the theory is, if you take out all of the kids who are accelerating in school and you put them into a private school under a voucher system, that public school has now been gutted of all of its talent, and then that public school will continue to erode. Now, the flip side of that argument, and this is why it's difficult, is if you keep the kids who are doing very well in said public school, as we know, kids, they might not excel whatsoever, and they might just decide to be cool and get dragged down. So that's kind of the two different things. Does keeping the smart kids, or the kids who are at least academically intelligent in those schools, raise the standard, or do the intelligent kids just go down and want to be popular and hang out with the normies like myself?
I used to get told by teachers all the time, "You're not like them." Like, what are you doing? Because I would try to be funny and interrupt, but I was getting good grades.
Well, I was talking to my buddy Pete, former military guy, and it was interesting. He picked up his daughter from school, and she was like, "Can I call you my uncle?" Because none of the kids have dads.
Oh, God.
So when he picks up his daughter, she calls him uncle.
That's so sad.
It's so sad, right? Anyway, so that is up for debate, and that is something that is not, I understand both sides of that argument, which is why it's a very difficult argument. But if you are someone who is more center-left, I think that you would be more pro the voucher system that would allow the more advanced students to go elsewhere. So we'll see how that plays out nationally.
And you also have more time to spend with the kids who aren't doing as well.
Right,
Because
that's
they'll
very
have
true.
extra attention. So, I mean, I think it's a good thing. Get the kids who are doing well out of there, and then, yeah, you can spend more time with the...
And don't forget, there's a lot of money to be involved there as well.
Yeah, true.
And on a culture war front, the culture war, which has nothing to do with policy whatsoever. But anyway,
Buy one, get one war.
oh, there we go. That's very fun. He did sign an executive order protecting gender-affirming care, including puberty blocker surgery and hormone therapy. To me, you know my thoughts. That's up to the individual. I don't fucking know what people go through.
Yeah.
The only thing I do know, again, is that the tampons in the boys' bathroom are being used for fun. That's the only thing that I know. So I don't want to say I'm new. I do as I want. Mm-hmm. That's my thoughts on it. So I don't particularly give a shit. But of course, in the culture war world that we live in, it's going to be talked about ad nauseum, and it's going to be a total distraction from the fact, again, we're damn near in WW3. Mm-hmm. He also had a climate action framework, which is interesting. He wanted the number of electric cars on the road to go from 1% to 20% by 2030 and slashing state greenhouse gas emissions by over 50% over 8 years. I'm not sure exactly how many greenhouse gases Minnesota emits overall, but nonetheless, when it comes to the electric vehicles, I think we're going to find out that they're not quite as environmentally friendly as we once thought.
Yeah.
They also weigh a shit ton more than a regular car, so now we're starting to see...
I thought you were talking about the people.
Oh, yeah. No, they're pretty good.
Yeah?
I've seen the people that drive the Tesla, not the chunkiest,
Oh, yeah.
not the
But
fattest.
people in Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota. Well, I'm from Wisconsin. I can't talk on that. I can't. I'm not going to diss him for eating all right. Minnesota, it's a cocky Wisconsin. And, of course, Tim Walz would be a Vikings fan, so I don't like him for that reason whatsoever.
Me and my cousin got kicked out of a bar in Minnesota on football. It was Monday Night Football, and we
Why?
said, fuck. And they said,
saying
we don't
fuck?
talk like that. I don't know how
Oh,
they
my
talk.
God. I was on tour in Minnesota one time, and this guy I was with, he was smoking joints in his hotel, and then they kicked us out. Yeah, so Minnesota, it's not for me.
Yeah.
But I do want to say the electric vehicles, there's new evidence because they weigh so damn much that they're kind of ruining the roads, which is not good. That leads to more construction, which leads to more pollution. And then also, you know all those guardrails on the side of mountains and stuff? Uh-huh. Yeah, because they weigh so much, they don't stop the cars.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so Teslas are just like going over the mountain. They're just going over it.
Wow.
Not to mention it involves anything that Elon Musk touches. Speaking of the transgender issue, which, my God, you know, I don't really. If I had a kid and they were like, "I'm a guy, I'm a girl," you know, I'd say, "All right, whatever. Just, are you happy?"
Right.
And that's all that should matter to a parent. He also wants to be 100% carbon-free electricity by 2040, but. You know, the thing that gets the electricity going, it's all still oil-based, right? Because you got all these batteries and shit.
And nuclear.
Well, I'm pro-nuke.
Ooh.
Pro-nuke.
Wow.
Let's use them.
Even with Fukushima or whatever it was? Fukushima?
Nah, that was a long time ago. They've gotten better since then. And you look at what was the name of that? Not Chipotle. What's the name of that thing that blew up there? The one that's not it's
Chipotle.
not Chipotle. Now I'm just thinking about Chipotle. Chernobyl.
Oh, yeah.
Chernobyl's fine.
Yeah.
I was down there. I was
The Chipotle of Ukraine.
I was swimming in the Chernobyl River, just like the mayor of Paris said he was swimming in the Seine River. Meanwhile, everyone's getting rashes from the Olympics. Oh my God,
Glowing.
disgusting. When it comes to gun control, he did have an A+ rating or an A rating from the National Rifle Association, which I don't think is a good fucking organization whatsoever. But then there was that mass shooting in Las Vegas that killed 59 people. That was, of course, the Stephen Paddock insane massacre.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Now you can't stay in your room for more than 2 days without the police showing up and looking in your room.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, it was like right
At
after
Mandalay?
that. Yeah, anywhere.
Really?
I was staying at like Circus, and they're like, we have to come into your room. And I was like, why? They're like, you haven't come out for 2 days. And I was like, okay.
Circus. Yeah, I'm in here doing heroin.
I'm in here hating myself. Can't someone kill themselves in Las Vegas anymore?
Circus. I spent one night there. It was me, the bed bugs. I mean, it was fucking nasty. It was $69 for the night, though.
Hell yeah.
That was a pretty cool number. So anyway, Walz signed a gun control package. It featured universal background checks and a red flag policy. not that big of a deal. In my personal opinion, guns are not going anywhere in this country, and the idea of a background check could potentially save lives, as of course we've seen so many massacres take place.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, this, of course, the argument against that is if a bad person wants a gun, they're going to get a gun, which is also true.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just what happens when you have a ubiquitous amount of firearms on the street. And then he also did take some flack for his lack of response when it came to the George Floyd death, specifically when it came to the riots. Walz faced intense scrutiny over his delay in deploying the Minnesota National Guard to help restore order in the Twin Cities. This is according to a Republican. His name is Warren Limmer. You gotta love Limmer. He says, it was obvious to me that he froze under pressure, under a calamity, as people's properties were being burned down. So there is baggage with Walz, but again, as far as progressive policies go, he is definitely someone who is going to be embraced by the left, and we'll see if he helps the Harris campaign. I was reading a couple of articles on The Hill, a couple of opinion articles. They said this is Harris's first misstep in the campaign. So I don't know. We'll wait and see what happens.
The campaign's only a week old.
It's been 2 weeks. She hasn't had a press conference yet. She hasn't had a sit-down interview yet. It's all just been media-driven right now. The polling data has shown nationally it is at a dead heat. But again, if you watch Election Time, it's my favorite little YouTube show. You've seen me watching it.
Oh, yeah.
And if you break it down by the Electoral College, Trump still has a path to victory that is easier than Harris's. So she does need to get, again, that blue wall back. States like Georgia, I mean, that would be absolutely huge. And of course, she will end up winning Minnesota. Minnesota, I think it hasn't gone for a Republican since the 70s. It was the only state to vote for Walter Mondale in 1988 because, of course, he was from there. I still think Mark Kelly would have been a better choice. However, there were some tea leaves shown when he tweeted out that he was just going to focus on the people of Arizona. He tweeted that a day earlier. And then also when it comes to Governor Josh Shapiro out of Pennsylvania, I think that may have helped her, obviously, maybe put Pennsylvania in play for her, or at least it's a swing state, so, kind of shored up for her. But there was some speculation that he is Jewish.
Yeah.
And because of that, the liberal or the left wing of the Democratic Party would be upset with his stance on Israel.
Wow.
And of course, John Fetterman also does not like Josh Shapiro whatsoever. Fetterman, the sitting senator.
He also doesn't like to hit the brakes.
No, he doesn't. I don't know what's going on with Fetterman lately. He's been a bit cocky when it comes to his lack of support or, I guess, sympathy for the people of Palestine. And then just to wrap it up, obviously the most important thing is money, right? And definitely there's going to be a bit of a boom for Harris. She has raised so much money in 17 days. It's absolutely insane. And anyone who is on any Democratic Party email list, I'm sure you've been getting the request for just $7.
Oh, that's it?
$7, but every day. Every day. So Donald Trump, in an attempt to keep up with the fundraising, it's interesting. If you want a picture with Donald Trump, you know what it's going to cost you?
$10.
$50,000. So this is, Trump, man, you got to really want that picture.
Yeah.
So the Republican nominee, he was at a fundraiser in the Hamptons where all working class Americans go. And it cost $25,000 just to attend the damn thing.
Whoa.
Just to hang out with a bunch of snooty toots who fucking hate each other and hate their own lives. And then it cost $50,000 for a picture with Donald Trump.
Wow.
So
that's 75 total. It's not, you don't get a $25,000 credit.
That I'm not sure. I don't know. It might be, maybe just $25K on top. So he's also charging supporters $250,000 for a seat at his table. So if you want to sit next to Donald Trump, it costs you $250,000.
Wow.
Oh my Lord! I wonder why Jeffrey Epstein was able to work his way into the political class. Good God. The goal for the Trump campaign is to raise $10 million and get some more cash again, as Harris has been able to raise quite a bit of money. She's raised more than $310 million in July alone, including $200 million in the first 7 days after Joe Bob after Joel Pa said he was done.
Wow.
Anyway, there you go. $50,000 for a picture with Donnie Trump.
I want to know how many people are taking out loans to do that.
I mean,
There's got to be some.
Oh, it's so sad. Just how pathetic are you? I would spend $50,000 on literally anything else.
Yeah.
I would. I mean, I would rather get beat up by Mike Tyson for $50,000. Like I literally like I got my ass kicked by Mike Tyson.
One nice punch to the gut.
I'd much rather, and I'd get it tattooed. I'd be like, yeah, he punched me. It fucking hurt really bad. So much rather.
So Houdini died.
I know, poor guy. Yeah. He finally disappeared. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to this episode. Hail yourself. Yes, I wanted to. I was going to give a whole thing about how you're doing out there. But I hope you're doing all right.
Yeah,
you're doing great. Stick with it. But I'll tell you more in the next episode. All right, everyone. Hail yourselves. Love you guys. Bye.